Hey creative friends, Kristen Fagan here, and we're going to do a quick creative tutorial today. These are of my little affirmation tags. Super cute. They are a mixed media project. We're going to use a little bit of collage, a little bit of watercolor, a little bit of craft paint, a little bit of paint pen, and then some words, either cut out from a magazine or maybe ones that you print out from your printer, however you want to decide to do that. And then you add a little bit of twine or ribbon to the top of it, and then you can hand these out. You can leave them around as an art abandonment piece, or give them as a little tag on a gift. Or if somebody purchases some art from you and you want to add a little extra piece of you in there, a little something for them to kind of remember, you can give them one of these. Sign your name, write a little note on the back. Very, very sweet little affirmation tags. I actually brought these to a creative conference with me earlier this year. I made about 30 of them. I stuck them in my bag, and as I met people, as I sat next to them in a class, or I met them in an elevator, or we went to yoga on the beach, or whatever it was together, as I was meeting people, I would let them choose one. And in that situation, I actually had them in a little baggie, and I had all the white parts facing them so they didn't know what they were. And I had them just pick one, kind of like an oracle card, and let them see what their message was that they received. And most of the time, almost every time really, they were happy with the message they got, and it sort of resonated with them, and it was something that they went, oh, well, there's this thing that I'm going through, and this was perfect for that. And it was such a great conversation starter and a great way to get to know people. That was at a particular conference, a little crafting conference, but you can do that at any time, right? And it could be a little way in to your local community, a little way to say hello, or give something one that maybe you appreciate someone at your coffee shop, or you just want to leave it abandoned somewhere for someone to find. Lots of different ways you can use these little tags. So join me and let's create some for yourself. All right, here we are with all of my mixed media materials. You can have all of these, some of these. Either way, it'll be okay. Let me add in a little glue stick here too. So I have a glue stick for some of my collage papers. I've got some scrapbook paper, some things I cut from a magazine, some words that I cut out from a magazine for my affirmations. I also just printed on from my computer a few messages. I use these for my mixed media thank you cards too. So, maybe on this one I'll use something like "you matter" for an affirmation. I appreciate you, those kind of messages. I've got some brushes and some craft paint. I like to limit myself to not having too many colors, because I have a lot of colors in the watercolor and on the paper. So what I tend to do, what I did today, was I just went through my little craft paints and I felt which ones were almost done. And I tend to use that as my, well, these are the two I'll use because I'm almost finished with them. And it kind of takes out the little bit extra decision making I have to do. And look at how lovely it matches with everything anyway. So I like to do that. So I have two colors, this pink and this mint. I've got some Posca paint pens. These are always fun towards the end to make some marks. I just grabbed a handful, these 4 different colors: navy blue, a mustard, a aqua, and a peachy peachy color. And I've got my full palette of watercolors. These are super cheapy watercolors. You can use whatever you have. I like these really bright colors. And of course I have some water and a rag to wash my brushes. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our glue stick and our magazine pages, not my words yet, I'll move those aside, but all of the little magazine pages and the scrapbook pages, and we will go ahead and glue these down randomly on our page. And I'll probably actually rip some of these a little bit more in a couple of different ways, so they have a little more interest in different ways I might decide to use them. Make them a little bit smaller. Let's go that way. And I found this great magazine called Mantra Wellness. So that's where I grabbed these from, and that's where I've grabbed some of my words from. They have really good words in there. You don't have to have this magazine. I just wanted to share with it because I found that they have a lot of really great pictures and words specifically for using in mixed media art pieces. So yeah, but you use what you have on hand. You go look for your magazines, pick out some things you like, cut out words you like, and then we'll get started. Okay, I have a couple of different pages I pulled out because I do have a little stack of art pieces of paper, which are pages that I have added little squiggles to. These are actually from business envelopes, so bills or messages of that kind have these fun patterns on the inside, and I just added some mark making on top. And I think that's always fun to throw in something that is from your own papers that you've made too. So I picked those 3 out to add to my pile here. And before we get started gluing down, let's just take a moment to center ourselves. Take a nice deep breath in, deep breath out, and let go of everything that happened before this moment. Take another deep breath in, deep breath out, and allow yourself to be here now. Bring everything to this present moment of creation. Take another deep breath in, and deep breath out. We're here to have a good time, to enjoy the creative process, and to let go of any judgment of our creation as we make it. And then I have a little mantra here to remind ourselves as we're creating. I expand in success, love, and creativity every day as I inspire others to do the same. And that's from the book, The Big Leap, Gay Hendricks. I love this little quote. It's actually a little affirmation in my calendar that pops up as a reminder for me to remember why I like to create and why I like to share what I create. And that is what these little affirmation tags are all about, because we're going to make them and we're going to share them with others. We can share them by dropping them off in art abandonment kind of way, leaving them places for someone. I like to include these in any little art orders or gifts I might give someone. Or you might just decide to hold on to them in your bag or your purse and kind of hand them out as you want to, or as you feel like somebody might need one. So that's the energy around these little affirmation tags. to expand in success, love, and creativity every day and inspire others to do the same. Okay, now I just take out my glue stick and maybe do a little more ripping. That looked way too perfect there, but I do like this little love. And I'm gonna randomly start putting things down on this page. No thinking involved at this point. You just, wherever it just feels like it wants to stick, let it stick. You can overlap pieces. You can leave them floating. There's no wrong way. These little marks were made with a product called gelatos, which are very similar to pastel. If you feel like you're getting stuck on where you should place things, my tip is always to just move more quickly. So if I'm getting in a position where I'm like, does that go there? Does that go there? I try and just quicken my pace. That is something that seems to work for me. You might feel differently, but I just wanted to share that because that's something that works for me when I'm trying to tap more into my intuitive side and less into my logical thinking mind. Okay, ta-da! So the next thing I'm gonna do is I like to just kind of run my hand around everywhere, and if there's any pieces that I wanna glue down a little more, you can do that. Or sometimes I will actually tear some pieces off instead of gluing it down. Maybe I'll use that somewhere else. Like so. So you can decide, oh, is that a piece I really want to be there and I'm gonna just do a better job of gluing it? Or, hey, I can let that little corner go and just let it be more rippy in that spot. Looks good. Looks good. So I'm gonna go next to my palette of watercolors and I'm gonna grab a fairly large brush. And I'm gonna see what kind of color do I want to bring in here. I know I have mint and pink as my craft color, so I'll stay away from the green and the pink and instead maybe want to pull in some yellow. And now I'm gonna just kind of do some washes around in that color and going on top of some of my pages, around other pages, keeping it loose. And again, I like to work quickly. And maybe a purple. Let's see, I like that one. We use that one a lot. So a darker color in there. You might want to let the watercolors mix. And then we just kind of give it a few minutes to let that layer dry. Now that my watercolor is dry, I'm gonna come back, or drier, doesn't have to be totally dry, but drier to the touch. I'm gonna come back with those two colors of craft paint, and I'm gonna play with how I want to apply them. I've got 3 different brushes here. I've got a fan brush, a tiny little round brush, and a flat brush. And I'm just gonna play with mark making with these and filling in some of these spaces. Again, going over some papers and around other papers. Okay, so now that I'm done with the paint on that brush, I'm gonna grab this little tiny brush and I'm gonna dip it in my pink, and then I will go ahead and do some marks with this one. All right, done with that one. I have just this fan brush left. I'm gonna come back to that mint green and load up my brush and then see about how I might wanna add that. Okay, I used all my brushes. I used both the colors, so I'll stop there. And next up, I'm gonna bring in some of my paint pens. Now, if you never worked with paint pens before, it's really good to make sure what you're gonna paint on top of is dry, because they don't really like to stick to things that are wet. It doesn't really work very well. So what I will do, you can either step away and let this all dry, depending on how wet yours got. Or for me, since I kind of was sporadic with it, I'm gonna just stick to the drier areas And you could even, which I do this a lot too, is blot your page away and pick up anywhere that's too much excess. The nice thing about these more crafty acrylic paints is they tend to dry really fast. So I like them for these kind of projects when I want that fast drying ability, but all acrylics are fairly quick. So it took off some big spots. Go ahead and shake up. I'm going to start with this dark one. This is the dark blue. Shake them up, and then you're going to want to tap them out. You could tap them out on your tape. You could tap them out on your palette or another thing you have near it. I like to tap it out to get it flowing, but also to make sure, like, see how that got a nice little blob. Well, blobs are okay too, but if you want to have more control, you don't want that blob to come out somewhere where you're like, ah, right? And now I'm going to do some more mark making with the Posca pen. And what do I feel like doing? Maybe I feel like doing some leafy shapes, organic shapes kind of in here. Do one there, and maybe I'll do one over here. The other nice part of these is you don't know what's going to be like up and down or back and front, so you can kind of just play. So 1, 2, let's do one more up here. Kind of pull it in a different direction. Really loose. Come back with this one for some mark making, some dots. I always love dots. Dots on top of other dots. Oops, I picked up some of the blue accidentally, but it made like a nice olive green. So I'm not mad at that. Look at that. That's fun. Let's go ahead and keep playing with that. Let those colors mix a little. And then some more mark making. And over here, maybe over here. Now let's do this one. Probably 3 colors is enough. What do I want to do here? Maybe I like the leafy things. I might come back with that. Let's do a spiral. Spirals are kind of fun, aren't they? This one's getting a little low, so I might not have as much control because it's not quite as juicy. Spiraling in, spiraling out. Okay, and I think I'll come back with this dark one more time just to add a little more contrast. And I like to do what's sort of intuitive writing, but it's not necessarily words. Like, it could be words, but it's also just sort of marks. Looks like I'm writing. I think they're fun. And since I did those leaves, maybe I'll do another like little set of a different kind of leaf in there. And these are sort of my iconography. You might have different marks you love to make, so feel free to change it up to anything that you enjoy. At this point, I'm gonna let this dry, and then we'll come back with our steps of cutting our tags and adding some words. Now we're gonna peel off the tape. This is always fun. Just be slow. It does sometimes tear depending on your paper. I use blue painter's tape. It did tear a little bit here, but I'll probably end up cutting some of that off. So since these pieces get all cut up anyway, it's okay. But if you go slow, you usually will tear less. Look at that, it's a work of art in and of itself. I love it just like this. But we're gonna cut it up because we're gonna make little taggies, and the only thing I'll probably try and keep intact is this little love guy, because why wouldn't I, right? So yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting this to pieces. I do have a great little tag maker that I picked up on Amazon. So this will make like a little fancy top and adds a little hole punch to it. Super cute. I really love it. But it's not necessary. You can always just cut it straight or make a little like one of those kind of basic tags, you know. So let me go ahead and just trim off here to start. And I do gotta make sure this thing goes into my little space. The largest one it could be is from there to there. So that does show me that I probably will end up cutting about this much off, but that's okay because I can keep this little piece for something in the future. Let me get my template down. That will fit inside there. So it's a good template. I'll use that one to create my next strip. So I now have these long tags. You can even turn these into bookmarks if you wanted to. It's kind of fun too. I think I'll cut them in half, approximately. Again, I'm not like measuring anything. You just use one of these little guys as a guide for the next. Nobody's going to be putting them up next to each other to measure them. They're all a little different. That's okay. And whether or not you want to keep these is up to you too, or you can fill them in. You can either fill them in with some mark making. This is where the tape ripped a little bit. So I'll just cut that piece off, and then you've got your little tag here. So if you don't have a little tag maker, you can do something like this where you just trim the corners and then punch a hole right here with a regular hole punch, and then you'd have a little tag just like that. And then on this one, I'd probably turn it upside down because this part will be what I cut off. I'll show you how this works. So just slide this in here all the way to the back. Push it down, and look at how cute that is. and you add a little bit of twine or ribbon, and you've got yourself a cute little tag. So here's all of our fun tags that we created. And now our last step is to add in some of our affirmation words we cut out, little messages that we would want to share with someone. Let love in. I always love how they can be kind of random and then be like the person that gets the message that they need. Or the message they didn't know they needed. And I like to do the words last because I like to see like what feels right on that particular tag or in the colors that are on that tag, and then you have a better idea of where things get cut, and you have the freedom to trim things off easily without having to worry about your words already being there. So there's 2 cards. And then you'll add a little bit of twine. I'm going to fold this piece over just like that. I'm going to take the folded end, push it through from back to front, and open up that loop, and then slide in those end pieces. And then you can leave this open if you want to attach it to something, or you can create a little knot at the end if you want to be able to hang it from somewhere. So cute. All right, I'm going to keep going and I'll just share what they look like in the end with all of you.